Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Schooled, where we kind of do a little dive into the various aspects of the Beautiful Plains School Division, what's going on here, and kind of what it looks like from the inside. Today we're here talking to Katy Martin, who is an arts educator within the schools, and we're kind of looking at arts in the schools. So welcome to the program.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
So a little bit about yourself first. Who are you? What do you do within the school?
For sure. My name's Katy Martin. I'm the high school art teacher at NACI, and I've been in that role for a few years now. I'm also a practicing visual artist in the community too.
So what does the art program within the school look like? What age groups does it have and what do you do within the arts in the school?
So we have a grade 9, 10, 11, and 12 course. Right now the grade 9s are separated, but then my 10, 11, 12s are in mixed grade classes, so they can take the credit any time. But yeah, you'll have a grade 10, 11, 12 split class, kind of all at the same time. And they work on, it's very project based, and the projects are very open-ended, so we kind of give them some inspiration and guidelines, teach them a couple techniques based on whatever media we're using, and then the kids really get to create art that they're excited about. So that's kind of like my main goal.
Okay. So here's sort of the fundamental question about this is, what is the importance of visual arts in the school?
It's huge. I mean, for the kids, for them to be able to understand themselves better, and also to understand the world at large, for them to be able to use the arts as a tool to communicate, for them to be able to respond to different things that they see and have the right vocabulary, so that they can kind of explain what they're seeing. I think it's so important. They learn so many skills, through collaborating with each other, idea generation. A lot of the skills are very transferable too. Once you understand even just the basic principles and elements of design, and you can use them in so many different careers and in your life, in general. So for me, obviously, I'm pretty biased, and I think it's hugely important. Also, a lot of the kids we're seeing, they're starting, I think, to have sort of a better understanding of that they need tools to use to process emotion. And so a lot of them talk to me about using the arts as one of those tools. And so, it's really nice that that's coming from them, and that they're seeing that they can use it kind of for cathartic reasons. So yeah.
There's about a dozen things in there I'd love to follow up on. So let's start with arts as communication. I agree with you. I think it's a great communications tool. Do you find that the students are better able to communicate art, or some students are now taking art who find it difficult to communicate in other ways?
Yeah, I think some kids are definitely more visual, and so it's easier for them. I just recently spoke with one of our teachers that teaches math, and they were saying that they find that a lot of kids that take art are actually really good in math, because a lot of the time it's problem solving. That's what you're doing, this didn't work, now I'm going to try this, or that color's, you're constantly problem solving. So you're communicating, but also you're kind of fine tuning the skill of problem solving. So I think it helps kind of across the board.
Yeah. And of course you mentioned sort of the, I guess, emotional regulation aspects of art. Now how I don't know the exact question I want to ask here is so much as exploring the topic of using art in that way.
I think some students you'll see use it more meditatively, they'll want to sketch, they're having a rough day and they just want to sit down and sketch and just kind of disappear into their sketchbook. And then other students will do works that are very really represent the feelings or emotions they're kind of troubled with. And they're trying to get out, sort of, in a way. So you'll see, like I said, work that can be really powerful and emote really strong feelings with those students. So I think they kind of use it, in different ways.
Because, of course, art therapy is a thing very much.
Yeah, and it's interesting that just innately, without being told that this is a tool, they kind of already use it that way, or some of them know to use it that way.
And I think art is perhaps not the typical high school class you would think of, with assignments that are then graded and you have to achieve certain things. How is it that you work in your classroom as far as student progress? Yeah,
so I am on the way, probably left end of the spectrum when it comes to assessment. And I've told my students for years, the process is far more important than our final piece. So if you come into my classroom and you work for an hour straight on your piece, and we throw it out after, like that can still be a really great mark, right? It's not, we don't care, like, and I try to explain, you know, the best painters in the world have closets full of terrible paintings, and that it's the process of creating that. We're making you, we're not making the art. So through this process, right? So yeah, for grading for me is less important. I see it as a tool so that I can, some kids, you know, if I give them, I need to mark them a little bit harder in the beginning so that I can pull some greater work out of them. I can use, you know, assessment that way. Like, okay, you know, if you know, do the thing that we asked you to do for the assignment, you know, that could be a 75, but like, what could you really do? Like, how deep can we go? Like, what can I pull? So if I can use assessment in a way to motivate them, even if it's more extrinsically for the grade for some of my kids, what the beautiful thing that usually happens is that then they see what they're really made of, and they think like, oh wow, I can. What else can I create? So I don't like to grade too easily. Let's say like in the beginning, because then I feel like the bar is set really low, and then but I'm not grading based on.
It's not the
just
product.
Skill. Yeah, it's not just like the end product. It's like, what is in you? What can come out? You know, what can we foster
What did you put into it?
Yeah, so I see it kind of as like the creativity in the kids is like this little flame that I just want to nurture.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's different for every kid. Like you can't do it the same way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely not like a, you know, strict, I want them all to look like this. It's definitely not the kind of ship I run, but.
So that kind of spirit of experimentation, which I think is pretty integral to art in general, how do you think that transfers into other skills and life?
I think it's great if you can encourage people to be brave and like spontaneous and try different things, and know that like failure is closer to success than just talking about success, right? Like you have to try and fail before you get anywhere great. So I think the more that you can make that like part of your natural process. I think also I get frustrated because our students can get really used to, you know, doing one copy, like, here, I finished my paper and handed it in, and that's it, and they never revise. And so I show them, there's this really beautiful video on YouTube called Austin's Butterfly, and it's this, I think he's in grade 1, and they ask him to draw a butterfly, and he just draws it, and it looks like how you'd think it would look. And then his little grade, the kids in his class critique it, like very, you know, and they give very specific feedback, like, you know, the wings should be a little longer, or I think this should be, and anyways, they do this not once, they do it 6 times. And by the 6th time, his 6th draft, in grade 1 is phenomenal. Like it's as good as I could do. And, you know, I showed the kids, I'm like, a grade 1 did this butterfly, but if I asked all of you to draw a butterfly, you'd hand in the first one. So showing them, you know, we need to revise and it's okay. And don't like, let it make you feel bad about yourself. Like it shouldn't be great the first time, right?
Yeah. So it's not something you want to rush through to finish.
Yeah.
It is really the process and not always what comes out at the end. Now, something does come out at the end, obviously.
Yes.
And I've seen the students do show their art. But on the other hand, a lot of it you said is very personal to them. Is it a choice then if they want to show a piece or not once it's finished?
I mean, if somebody came to me and said, you know, so usually the way I do assessment is we do a critique. So we do, we spend a lot of time on projects, and then once everybody's done, we do a final day, a critique day. So that's when the kids will present their work to the class. They stand up, they hold their piece, and they talk about it, and we ask them questions. And that's usually when I'll do my grading. So their critique is kind of part of the mark. And so, yeah, if a student was like very, you know, didn't feel like it was a very vulnerable piece and they really didn't want to share, they would just do it personally with me. It would be totally fine. But I've actually never had that happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe that spirit of bravery in producing these pieces is sort of transferable into that.
Yeah, and you know what? There's been times where students have been so vulnerable and shared things that I was like pretty floored at, that they shared publicly with the class from their art piece, where I was like, wow, what I say next really matters. Like I have to really, you know, like in my head, like, wow, this kid was so brave. So yeah, they're wonderful. We have such wonderful students at our school that it is a really safe place. Like I think that's shown through examples like that.
And one of the other things you mentioned was a spirit of collaboration in the class as well. Now, how does that work within the classroom? Are there group projects? Are there things like that?
Yeah, so every year is a little different, as I'm not overly A-type, which probably you would guess. But so there are certain years where, we have a few group projects. One year we did those, we painted rain barrels, which I think a lot of the paint chipped off of those in the end, but we did those as a group, and not even just one class, like we set them up on the tables, and then every class that would come in would just join a table and just start. And so we did have to deal with kids painting over other kids' work, but for the most part it worked out okay. And then we do quite a few group projects that are with our art club that are very collaborative.
Right.
Also, we've started doing some more reflective work using art history pieces, and so we'll get in groups for that, so that there's some kind of better discussion and it's not just one person.
So is that sort of collaboration within the classroom space one of the things that led to the classrooms going out in the community and doing other projects?
I think that was more like, I personally wanted to see more public art. And so that was kind of, I just was hopeful that we could, I knew how talented our students were and how skilled they were. And I was just hoping that we could kind of partner with the town to try to get some of that done. And that's kind of how that came about.
Because you yourself have done some public art within the town, definitely. You know, painting the outside of buildings. And then there was the mural project, which started as well.
Yeah.
With the students.
Yeah, we're working on, this year we are working on mural 7 and mural 8. So I think we had planned to do 10.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great that we're getting close. Next year should be like the last year to get the 10th mural done.
Yeah. Is that phase 1 of the project? Do you think it might continue on?
Yeah,
or?
I guess we'll see. Well, that was funded by Nipoa Tourism.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see how they liked it and if the town thought it was good and if we find a grant to do it again, I guess. But the kids, I know the kids really enjoy painting the murals and seeing their work around town. And I think,
and we have one on the building here.
Yeah,
so,
right. That's right. And yours were our first takers. And I think people enjoy them around town. Like, I don't think I haven't heard anything negative. So.
No, I love going around town and discovering them.
Yeah.
So that was maybe the first public art project that was done with the class.
Yes.
But there have been now subsequent ones as well.
Yeah. We have one in the works right now where we've partnered with the metals class at the school, and so again funded through Nipoa Tourism. So our metals kids are going to make bike racks, like 12 bike racks for the main drag, and the arts kids are going to paint them. And so they'll be like these, nice sort of art sculptures throughout town, but also useful considering we have that bike park, the back 40. So yeah, so I think that's going to be a great project.
I love hearing that because bike racks has actually been an issue in town for such a long time.
Yeah, right. And exactly. So we have kids that are eager to do it. And like I said, I think it gives them some agency and they get to be sort of, they have some ownership when they get to do things like that are part of their town. So yeah, that's a great project. We also, the art club started, like you saw, they painted the building attached to the Roxy there.
The curb block there.
Yeah, so that was another art club project where the kids went out and just tried to make that space a little more cheerful. And then all of those candy, like oversized candies and trees, like the Christmas ornament sort of decorations. Yeah. The art club did those to kind of decorate the town a little bit more. So we have a few more projects like that in the works. Yeah.
So that is the art club. Now, is that mostly people who came out of the class, or is that sort of open to anyone in the school who wants to participate?
Yeah, it's open to anybody. A lot of my art students are in there too, but there's quite a long list of kids that have signed up, and I'll just open up the class and say, okay, it's open from this hour to this hour. Anybody in our club that can make it, join us. This is what we're doing today. So it's a very come and go. Like there's not a commitment. They don't have to come every single time. It's just when they're available and they want to.
And is that all on public art projects, or is the art club sort of just a creative space for students?
It's pretty much all public art. Yeah. That was kind of the point, was that we were like, you know what, we can kind of do some really beautiful things for our town and then still be creative at the same time. Yeah. So yeah, all of our projects are for the community. There's overlap between those kids that are also going to work on major production, props, and those kinds of things. Yeah. But yeah.
Well, you just said the words major production, so of course I have to follow up on that. Major production, they have announced this year, I believe, is Aladdin, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So how involved is the visual arts groups within the school in production of the major production?
Yeah, well, there'll be a group of kids that have signed up to do props, and like I said, there's quite an overlap of those kids that are also in the art club. Yeah. And they'll be fully involved in making all the things we need them to make. They're, like I said, very, very skilled kiddos. So yeah.
And is that props? Is that sets as well?
Yeah. So the wood, we have our woods teacher, Eric Cadet. He will build the main sort of structures for us, or his students. I'm not sure. I think he has the students involved in that too. And then the props kids will kind of finish them off.
And what are the dates of the major production?
Oh, I think May 9th and 10th, 8th, 9th, 10th.
That sounds right to me. I think it's the second weekend in May. So. I will also be speaking to someone about about performing arts in the schools, so we
Perfect.
can kind of get a little more detail on that
Yes.
at that point. But I wanted to make sure that people knew that there is very much a visual arts component to these
Yeah.
productions.
Oh, totally. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
They come with some projections, visual projections, so we do have that as a base. But yeah, there's a definitely a large like visual arts role involved too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask about sort of your own artistic practice and how it sort of informs what you bring into the schools.
Yeah. Oh, great question. I love that I get to be an active visual artist, and I love that I get to do that, and all the skills that I learn I get to kind of pass along to my students, even if it's informally. But yeah, like I took a year leave last year just to work on my art sort of business, which was exciting, and I feel like I grew a lot and learned a lot, and I spent a lot of money on courses to learn the other side, the business side of it too, and even if I could completely replace my salary, in working alone in my basement wasn't really it for me, as much as I am an introvert. So I really miss the kids, and I miss being able to share the stuff I've learned with them. So it's been so exciting being back with the kids, being kind of rejuvenated, and like being able to share all the stuff that I've learned with them. I am hoping to actually make a formal course that bridges sort of the master's in arts with business, so that the kids could sort of, for the first part of the semester, choose their medium. Like if they loved making ceramic bowls, or little paintings, or earrings, or macrame, or whatever it is, and and talk about revising back to the Austin's butterfly, they would do several iterations, and we would get it as good of a product as we can make it. And what this also builds is self-confidence, because instead of flying through a ton of projects and kind of doing them not so well, if you really do one thing well, when you bring that bowl home and mom and dad see it, or they're like really impressed in it. So building self-confidence is really important to me for these kids. So anyways, they would choose the thing they're excited about, they would do a really good job of it, make a few, and then the second half I'd be able to teach them sort of the skills I've learned in business, like how to create a website for free, how to leverage social media since they're on there anyway. So I'm excited to be able to bring that to the kids.
That's one of the things that struck me the first time when you and I first met, and I was still over at Arts Forward, was that we were working together to bring some of those business aspects business aspects to the art of the students, that they would understand maybe pricing art and things like that, which is a skill that is just not taught.
No, it's not. And even when I was, I did my fine arts degree, and there was nothing on business. So great, you have this skill, you have this passion, you want to share it with the world, but you have no idea how to do that, right? So, and like I said, again, if you learn those skills, like that's transferable to anything. So maybe you're in my class and you don't love making ceramic bowls, but you humor me and go through the process, and now you're, mowing lawns, but now you can still create your own little business, right? And so, and especially like, with the economy and everything, kids are looking for a side hustle. Like they're looking for something that they can
it's gig economy.
monetize.
Everyone's looking for a side hustle.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like if we can give those kids some of those skills, like that excites me. And I don't want all the stuff I've learned to just go to waste. Like I want to be able to pass it along for sure.
And I run into so many adult artists and experienced artists who also have no idea about the business aspect of art. I think it's a hugely overlooked thing.
It is, and it's frustrating because I think if you are a creative, you don't typically, like, you're afraid of that stuff. Like you're not naturally inclined to finance or like, right? Yeah. So it's a bit of like understanding. It's not that scary, and like really understanding you need to develop that as much as this if you want to, earn a living. And some people don't. If you just want to do it for leisure, obviously there's no need. But I hope to arm the students with like some of these skills, because I think a lot of them would be able to use them and kind of run with it. Yeah, and this is a very tangential, but I think just finance skills in general are absent from our student education. For sure. I think always have been. Yeah, and I don't know, I mean, I haven't been in school for so long, and I don't know what they do now, like in some of the math courses, I'm not sure. But I hope I think they teach some of it. Yeah. But just the practical aspects, because when you're coming out of fine arts, you're usually not going into a 9-to-5 job. You're going into self-employment in some aspect. Right. And same with a lot of things that people are doing now. So and also having like the courage to know you really can have a career, and like I didn't know that. Like I thought, that's not possible,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, it is, like, right?
Yeah.
Especially with social media, like we have tools now that are making it easier. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things about arts in the schools that I think is really important, is that people think of them as like extras, like art. Oh, what, you're going to a class and you're drawing, what's that going to do for you? Or you're going to a music class, or you're going to a theater class. And these are career options for people. These are important skills that people are learning at schools.
Yes, and honestly, I would even say that the arts field, like I think jobs are booming. Like they're at an all-time high in so many, when you start looking at like video game creation and animation and
Absolutely.
and like design, and there's just so many areas, but the fundamentals are the same. Like you need to know the basics, you need to know fundamentals. So yeah, I mean, you'll run into people for sure that think it's like kind of a joke, and that's okay. Like it doesn't upset me. I get it.
Yeah.
And I understand the importance culturally, and I think people also come to the arts in times of need. So you'll see people who don't maybe don't really get a quote or don't get a piece or an artwork until they're deep in their own grief, and then they're like, oh, it all makes sense, or like this one lyric got me through the darkest time. Like that's art. So if art is getting you through the darkest time, right? Like
I think we really saw that during lockdowns, as people turning to art for solace and for connection.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
And I think the reason that we maybe need to make people understand this is funding for arts in schools.
For sure. And that's also why it's interesting, because even that's another reason why I'd like to bring the arts to the public, because like public art pieces, because even through it's almost like people don't understand it until you show them. But like I've seen other small towns the same size as this that in a span of 10 years just exploded with tourism because of the arts. And it started with, one little studio, this artist, and then, a glass blowing studio came in, and then another studio, and then a couple pubs popped up. And then before you knew it, it was like the hub for all the arts profs in the GTA. And it was crazy how this little town went from this population and just through visual art. So I know people think that it's just like they're endlessly throwing money at this thing that isn't monetizing, but like it's crazy if you can see that that's just not the case. Like you can use the arts to bring tourism here. You can use the art like for to make money. You just have to like open your mind a little and see there's
Arts
another
has its
way.
finger in everything, really.
Yeah, and it like people are drawn to and spend money because of emotion, and that's what art tells the story of. So yeah,
that's actually a really, really good point. So I wanted to ask a bit about arts, sort of in an extracurricular sense. Is there a lot of that going on in the schools right now? As far as I know, you have your art club.
I mean, our music program is booming. Our drama program is like with major production is pretty phenomenal. And like the community art club I think is pretty fantastic. So I'm like, again, very biased, but I think I'm always super impressed with all the stuff happening at the school. And like I said, our students are incredibly skilled. I think part of that is the arts are really valued at home, especially with our Filipino culture, which is wonderful. And so I think that makes a big difference when you see high school kids still getting, huge packets of colored pencils for Christmas gifts from mom and dad, or like their own watercolor sets. Like that hasn't been a trend in every culture. So because it's valued at home, they practice more, and therefore they're more skilled. So even though everybody gives me all the credit, they're like, "You're such a good art teacher." I'm like, honestly, I'm not. These kids
coming with this.
Yeah, they come so very, very skilled. So yeah, I'm just lucky that I get to display their beautiful work.
So have you seen then? I guess you've only been there for a few years, but have you seen growth in the program as you've been there?
Oh, for sure. Numbers? Oh, yeah, for sure. We have some classes that are over 30. Yeah, for sure. We've got big numbers, which is great. Yeah.
And because certainly I remember when I was in school, and this is going back a bit now, but arts was a very small group of people, very much sidelined and not really interconnected with the rest of the school life. And do you think that is something that has changed?
I think so. Like I said, my classes are big, so yeah.
And is the art shown then outside of the classroom as well?
Yeah, we always do at least like one exhibit at Arts Forward. So we have our exhibit this year. I think it's in May, and I'm really excited about it because it's different. The kids decided instead of just sticking all their artwork up on the walls, which is typical, they're doing sort of a collaborative installation, kind of using recycled materials and stuff. So I'm really excited to exhibit it. Yeah.
And I wanted to go back to the classroom just very briefly, because there was something you mentioned about the program you want to develop where someone could really go down the rabbit hole with one medium.
Yeah.
Now, within the classroom, is that sort of something that you foster if someone really connects with a particular meeting that they use that?
Well, so right now, basically, when I set up my projects, it's based on, so we'll do like a ceramics, project, and we'll do something in pastel, or we'll do something in graphite, or we'll do acrylic, watercolor. So right now it's basically set in because of the medium.
Right.
And then I'll give them the idea, but if anytime the students say, hey, do you think I could do this? I'm always a yes, because the more engaged they are, the more, like, the better the work will be, and the more, so they have way more freedom with, I would say, the subject that they choose or how they make it, and less with the medium right now.
Yeah.
However, the kids, it came from them that they were asking if there could just be a drawing class. So we were talking that, this idea of sort of a master class, or like for my 11, and because the 9s and 10s, I still want them to experience the different mediums.
To try them all before you know.
Yeah, because some of them haven't tried everything yet.
Absolutely.
But for my 11 and 12 students who kind of know what they like at this point, I think it would be really cool if they could say, hey, I want to pick the medium that I like, and just become more proficient just in it. So I'm hoping if we create a course like that, the kids will be able to do that.
And so the model that you've sort of developed within the school system here in Beautiful Plains, or within NECI specifically, is that sort of a model that is transferable, or that you see in other schools, or do you know about what's going on in other schools?
I literally know nothing about what is going on in other schools. And I always say, because I'm the only art teacher, so I don't have anybody to talk to or downside. So I've always said that I would love to create like an art department sort of like PD group where all the art teachers.
You need a network of art teachers, absolutely.
Right, and I mean online there's a lot that you can talk to other art teachers, but I would love to do that and actually follow through with meeting a few of the different art teachers just in our region to kind of see, because I honestly have no idea what anybody else is doing. I have like a million ideas every day, so I'm just like full steam ahead in my own world, trying to bring them
whatever you're doing, it is working. Absolutely. So
thanks.
We're down to actually our last couple of minutes. So are there anything that you want to make sure that you get out there?
No, I don't think so. I'm just, thanks for the opportunity. I think it's great for people to know a little bit more behind the scenes, what's happening in the school. And I think all of our arts programs are really doing really well. So it's nice to see that, like I said, everybody's supportive.
Great. Well, thank you so much for making time for me today.
Yeah, of course.
For sharing all this with me. Best of luck. I love seeing the art projects around town. I can't wait to see more of them.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much.
And thank all of you for joining us today. We will hope to see you again next time.